I moved out and took everything, by username Ian_Aqua. It became apparent to me last week that my roommates were trying to drive me out of the house to get one of their boyfriends in on my lease. When I told them I wanted to stay, they started staging incidents/messes around the house so they could yell at me for them, and it all came to a head when they called a meeting with me 2 days ago. One of them had to hold the other back as she screamed at me that she hated me and I was not welcome in the building. They proceeded to tell me that I contributed nothing to the house and wasted their space, and that they had gotten in with the landlady and convinced her to not renew my lease in June. I told them I'd talk to the landlady, and when they said they were the heads of the house I laughed and went on with my day. I spoke to the landlady and she acknowledged that they were out of hand, and while she had given them the power to not renew my lease, she also said I could move out whenever and not pay for a single day I wasn't there. So, yesterday when my roommates both left to visit family, they are sisters, I immediately called everyone I knew and vacated the house of everything I owned. I took the curtains, the rugs, all the cat toys, and even the cat tower that I had made with my mom. I took all of their things off my shelves and other furniture and stacked them in the middle of the now nearly empty living room. I snapped pictures of everything, handed the keys to the landlady and immediately fucked off. They won't be back to the house until tomorrow. I've blocked them on everything so I won't get any angry messages, but I'm sure their faces will be priceless when they come home to a half-empty house with hundreds of dollars in storage and furniture gone. So much for me not contributing anything to the house. Now I actually don't. They also have to find someone else to take up the lease till boyfriend can move in when June comes around, or they have to pick up my rent. Feels pretty good. Note: I have updated this post, it is my newest comment. Healthcare executive hates her own policy, by user TheGynchiatrist. This happened years ago. I am an OB/GYN in a busy suburb of San Francisco. One of my patients was the vice president of a large health insurance corporation. She was a dynamic executive who climbed the corporate ladder quickly. One of her special talents was reducing healthcare benefits for patients. She initiated a policy where women who underwent cesarean section would to be discharged in 2 days rather than the standard 4-day hospital stay. Shortly after having in vitro fertilization, she found herself pregnant with twins. During one of her office visits, I mentioned the new 2-day policy. I told her that for some patients it was really rough to be discharged after major surgery in 2 days and be expected to care for a newborn infant. She just smiled and said that she didn't get where she was in corporate America by giving away money. And patients just needed to suck it up. Health insurance wasn't meant to be a convenience. She was 42 years old and went to full term with her twins. Despite her age, she elected to attempt a vaginal delivery because of the quick recovery. Her labor was long and extremely difficult and ended with cesarean section. On day 2 I went to her room to complete her discharge from the hospital. She said, "I'm not leaving. This is inhuman. You can't expect me to go home and take care of twins like this. I can barely walk. All you need to do is write a note in the chart that says I'm having a complication. My stay will be authorized." I told her that would be fraud. And I wouldn't be willing to falsify a medical record. Anyway, about a year later the state of California forced them to reverse the policy. Boss wants to cut off all employees and workers from their email access over the weekend but doesn't understand the consequences, by user Lucia. Hello everyone, this is my first post here and wanted to share my greatest work story. My native language isn't English, so please excuse when my grammar is a bit simple. The story starts with me and my company. I'm a 30-year-old businesswoman who works in an IT service in a bank space. I'm the girl for everything basically, but I'm a specialist for first-level support, administration, and backup, sometimes even networking. Even when I'm not head of my IT department, I'm basically had all the responsibilities of them, but unfortunately my pay grade doesn't reflect that at all. I think of my boss of my IT department as kinda lazy if not incompetent. He even brags about getting so much money for basically doing nothing. I have a 40-hour week, but since the whole IT department is my responsibility, I need to keep track of the servers and maybe problems that can occur 24/7. This is mostly done via emails. When the server status gives out a warning or a failure, I will get notified, and then I'm fixing the problem over remote desktop or going to the company itself, even in my free time. I wouldn't mind this, but I'm not getting paid for this, but on the other hand, I'm getting punished when something is going wrong. My boss's boss wasn't that much better. Since it was a fancy bank, everyone should be in a suit the whole time, to let it look professional, best with a skirt and high heels. Only problem is when you work in the first level support you need to do a lot of behind the scenes work, like slipping under the desk to do or repair cable management, doing work on the server rack and doing lots of other activities that makes you dirty. You can imagine that this worn out my business clothes really fast, and not only that, they were so impractical and really made my work harder. So I changed my clothes to a comfy hoodie and work pants to fit the work I'm doing a bit better. When my boss saw me, he was furious, demanded I can't look like a poor hobo inside his bank. I told him that I demand work clothes for both occasions because they are expensive and gets worn out quickly. He refused, and I wasn't really happy about this. So much for the introduction. Someday, my boss's boss, head of the whole company, called me. He had a plan. He wanted to create quiet hours, means he didn't want his employees working on weekends to let them rest properly. At first glance, you could say, hey, that's a nice idea. Yet, no, he just didn't like to pay them for overwork, because he got in some legal trouble with overwork paying in general. Not only that, some employees have strict deadlines and need the extra time to get work done. To actively ensure nobody can't work over the weekend, he wanted the following: please make sure no one can access their emails and remote desktop over the weekend, no exceptions. Since we had a ticket system and be able to attach emails to tickets, I asked him to write an official work task. This has two reasons. First, I like everything documented. Second, I have something to protect and secure myself if the task I was giving is incorrect. And it's exactly this that saved me. So I was in my office desk again, thinking how to get the task done and what implication it will have, and then, it was clear to me what it meant. The email came from my boss with the task, and indeed he wrote, for everyone, no exceptions. I was thinking to myself, should I write them, the implications it would have? After thinking, I thought of how I am treated as a worker and I decided against it. I was working immediately at this task and made an automated process to block every access to emails after Friday 6 p.m. to Monday 6 a.m. Weekend came, and it was Saturday, and I was calm relaxed because if you have not noticed by now, by cutting down everyone's emails, means of course, that I don't receive any updates on the servers. I can't possibly work on it because my remote access is also cut, of course. If you think, you could forward your work email address to your private address, no, I can't because we have a very strict data protection. Nothing is allowed to go out. I'm happy. It's still Saturday, middle of the day, I'm cooking myself and my husband a nice meal and my telephone rings, it's my boss's boss. He talks with a stressed voice and told me that he can't access his emails. I needed a second to process this, but I responded, that doesn't surprise me at all, since you ordered me to cut everyone's email access, without exceptions. He was angry, very angry, and told me that this obviously doesn't count for him. I told him that he specifically told me that there are no exceptions, and he stated everyone. He then argued that this wasn't how he phrased it, so I reread him his own email. After that, he was silent for a moment. He noticed his flaw in his logic. I broke the silence and asked him, "Sir, if you still want access to your emails on the weekend, that's no problem, please send me a request per email and I work on first thing on Monday." A bit angry again, he replied that he wants to have it done immediately, and I calmly explained to him that I can't do this, since my remote access is also blocked, like he ordered. He hanged up. 10 minutes later, he calls me again. He asks me calmly if I can fix the problem right now when he pays me for my overwork. He also wants me to be available at any time, means I should receive my emails and be able to remote work, and that this will raise my pay grade by a lot. I thought that this is the perfect opportunity. I agree to that condition and pay raise, but only when my co-workers and I finally get work clothes. He agreed. Since then my work situation drastically improved, and mostly only because I maliciously complied, well aware of the consequences of the given task. Thanks for reading. Edit. Thank you so much for all your comments and love, I'm glad you liked it. EDIT2, I want to add something here to the 4 types of comments. To the people with positive comments and their own stories, thank you so much, I had no idea this would blow up this much. To the people who complain about my English, yes, I'm German, not a native speaker. I'm giving my best here and I'm trying to improve on it every day, that's all I can do. To the people with hateful comments, if you don't like it, that's totally fine, but there's no need of sharing insults, really. In my honest opinion, it was a valuable lesson for my boss to let them have a well-though concept before giving the official task. To the people who don't believe and say it's bullshit, I'm not here to convince you, if I can reach even one person to empower them to improve their work condition, then that's a complete win in my eyes. Getting kinky with my frigid roommate, by user ID forgotten. I used to rent a room in my old roommate's condo. We generally got along, but he was a bit stingy and would get really anal about certain things that affected me unfairly as a paying roommate. The biggest point of contention was the thermostat. I liked to be comfortable and would keep it at 70, he preferred 65 to save money even though he was well off. I tried to compromise, but it descended into us each moving the thermostat when the other left. Finally he put his foot down and said it has to stay at 65. Unfortunately for my roommate, I had learned about bimetallic strips that old thermostats used to gauge temperature. Two different metals are back to back in a coil. As one expands more than the other, the coil unwinds and turns the furnace on or off. Knowing this, I agreed to keep it at 65. But I didn't agree not to put a teensy, tiny kink in the strip behind the dial to change what 65 meant to the furnace. Several times he thought it's not stupidly cold in here, and started obsessively checking the dial to catch me red-handed. He was so confused when it was exactly at 65 every time. Eventually he started setting it even cooler to compensate. But with a subtle kink here or there I managed to stay comfortable while keeping the peace. Edit: since this post blew up, I have made a donation to UNICEF to help keep needy kids warm this winter. Please consider doing the same. If you donate through December 31st, your donation will be tripled. If I don't like it, I can find another job? Okay, by user Scrunt24. I think this qualifies. I worked at a small shop serving an electrical apprenticeship. Myself and the shop manager had had a few run-ins and I assume he disliked me as much as I disliked him. I had refused to do a job and told him he didn't pay me enough. It was at the stockyards and I was expected to put on a set of waders, crawl down into a raw fat reclamation tank, and replace a submersible pump. Wasn't going to happen. Another time he wanted me to lie to a customer to make an issue they were having sound like it wasn't our fault. I refused and told him if he wanted to lie about it, he was going to have to drive out to the job site and do it himself. He told me to keep my mouth shut and did come out. I think the only reason he didn't fire me was I was by far one of the most efficient and versatile employees. This fact had me questioning how much I was getting out of this apprenticeship and was passively looking around for another shop to apprentice at. My wage scale was structured and I got regular raises, bringing me closer to journeyman's level over my time as an apprentice. So, I had to find someone that would sign up to complete my apprenticeship as well as want to hire me. One of our better journeymen had gone to another shop and had introduced me to the owners. We had talked about what it would take to get me to move. Things were progressing but nothing committed to at that point. The malicious compliance. It's my evaluation and raise time. My manager calls me up to the conference room and explains that due to my performance and the shop being in a slow period, he was not going to give me the 25 cents an hour raise as my contract said, but was going to give me $1 more an hour once I became a journeyman. We argued and I told him, if I can't trust you for a quarter, why would I believe the $1? The argument ended in him telling me, if you don't like it you can always quit. Oh really? I picked up the conference room phone on the table in front of us and called the shop I had been talking with. I asked the owner if I brought my tools over today would I have a job? After a quick and uncomfortable discussion with his partner he said yes. I informed my manager I resigned effective now. I loaded my tools up, punched out and went straight to work that afternoon. Edit: well now I know what rib my inbox means. It figures that my single largest post or comment is one where I am a complete $a hole. My wife and daughter are laughing and apparently find that fitting. I would like to state a couple of things. I tried to answer any direct questions. If I missed you I'm sorry.